So I guess that kind of brings us to our next little category that Tom wrote up. So obviously you've grown up at this point, spent a few years playing music, roadieing on the weekends.
Yeah.
Electroplating.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff, racing. And then, best I can figure, you start getting into working security.
After driving trucks for a while, yeah. Yeah. Natural progression again. Fell into it.
Yeah, because all of those seem to line up perfectly.
Fell into it. Had no intentions on doing it. Ever. But, I gave up driving trucks. And Danny said to me, go see this bloke. I went, oh, okay. And went down there and met Buck. And he said, oh, you know Danny? I said, yeah, I know Danny all my life. Nada. He said, okay. He said, I've only got one thing to say to you. I said, what's that? You shit on me, I'll shit on you even harder. He said, you start Monday. See ya. That was the job interview. Knew nothing about it. But one of the bands that we worked with was a Kiwi band, and they'd play country gigs, so we were doing the security as well as the roadie work. That's just basic little stuff. And I suppose it became that progression from there. And so I worked for Buck for a few years, and then there was a little issue, and I said, well, I can't work with this clown anymore. He said, fair enough. And I went out on my own. And I got approached by Footscray TAFE, which was one of Buck's jobs. And I rang him up and said, they've asked me to come and quote it. He said, fair enough. And he told me how to quote it. And I thought, oh, that's good. He said, basically, I'm glad you're getting a gig out of it. So I did. I got the contract, and and then I got a patrol round up in Melbourne, bought that, and the school fell through after about 12 months because T&T were doing security, and they came in and undercut everybody. They were ruthless. They were going at cost plus $1. So there was no money in it, but it was a thing at the time where a lot of companies doing it for 12 months. They got you on contract. Next time around, they sign you up and have a contract, but the price would go back up to where it should have been. So that left me with the patrol round, so I expanded that, got it up and running, and then I sold it. So got a reasonable amount of money for it back in those days. And then we moved back to Upway. And your mother.
Look where that led.
Yeah, look where that led. Yes. And so that was that. And we were going to buy a pub, but that fell through at the last minute. So then I went back to security and down to General Motors. And stayed down there and then set up the PI company on the side. And got that running. And then left General Motors after a bit of a discussion. And the rest is history, as they say.
Which is probably for a good thing. After finding out what happened.
After what I heard last weekend, yeah. Yeah, I think it was a good move getting out of there. But yeah, then we moved on from there and worked the PI for quite a while. And seen a lot.
So how long did you do that for?
35 years, a bit over.
Yeah.
I had my licence in 2021, 22. thereabouts. So, started 82. Officially in 82. Unofficially back in the 70s when we were working with bands and doing security work there, which was a lot of fun sometimes, especially in the country gigs, because they were all trying to get their mates in through the back door. So I just set up little things that would collapse on them when they opened the doors up. It was fun. So yeah. Officially, 35 plus years.
And so I imagine as you progressed in that sort of job, you would have hired people on, contracted people, found stuff for them to do, all that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, one of my jobs as an ops manager, I had 110 of my own blokes and 300 subbies that I looked after. And that was pretty full on. And because the boss was cheap, and all the phones, company phones were Vodafone. And Vodafone never worked up in the hills. So I would have the company phone divert to my phone when it was out of range. And I was in the office one day and Dan's come in. I had the landline going. I had the company phone going and my phone. Because when the company phone was engaged, it would automatically divert to mine. And there were three separate conversations I had going, dealing with shit. And I seen Dan standing in the doorway, and he walked away after 5 minutes. It took me about an hour to sort all this out. I went to him, I says, "Did you want something?" He just stared at me and says, "How do you do that?" I said, "Do what?" He said, "You had 3 different conversations going." I said, "Yep." He said, "That's what I get paid to do, to sort shit out." And he couldn't understand how I could have those 3 conversations going. And he just did it. With my own company, how many people did I employ? I had 3 patrol cars, 2 down the coast and 1 in Melbourne, back in Smarsh. There's probably 8 or 9 blokes all up that I employed. So coast was interesting. Because one done Mornington Peninsula down to Sorrento and that, and the other one done the Western Port, which went from Baxter right through to Crib Point. And holiday times, it was busy. All the tourists. And I was doing payrolls down there at Rosebud. So we'd done the fortnightly payroll for Telstra and Australia Post. So I go down and do those, plain clothes. And the postmaster always liked to walk to get the money. And I thought, okay. And Combank was on the corner, so you could always see what was coming and going. And it was always plain clothes. And there was one day the little lady goes up in the bank, teller says, "That man's got a gun." Because there'd be that much barrel sticking out. And the bank goes, "It's all right, he's supposed to have one." So, okay. And I said to Brian one day, I said, "How much we carrying?" He said, "Oh, it's only $35,000. That's back in the 80s.
It's a decent chunk of money.
That's a lot of money, 35K. So I said, right, from here on in, we drive, we don't walk. It's only a block, don't care. Because in the peak season, I'm getting whiplash. Because you got thousands of people there. I don't know who the crook is. And so, yeah, you just had to be on A game with it. And they actually rolled the bank one day. Yeah, and I always stayed at the same motel down there. And I got to know the people pretty well. And George said to me, he said, "Oh, they robbed the bank." I said, "Really?" when they do that? He said, Monday. And we'd be in there on Thursday morning. And all they got was the coin, the $1 and $2 coins. So they didn't do their homework too well. But they would have cased that place out over a period of time, which means they must have seen us and haven't tweaked to what we were doing. Because 35 grand, they're bank robbers, they're carrying guns as well, so it would have been interesting. And then you're going to make a conscious decision on what you're going to do. And my conscious decision was, anybody wearing a balaclava, I'm shooting straight through the doors. I'm not waiting for them to come in. Because I've got a bank full of people. And, it's a scary thought. Scary thought. You know you're going to play God. I've done it once. And that was once too many. And not a nice feeling. But you got to do it. So, yeah.
Do you feel comfortable talking about that one time?
Oh, yeah, it was pretty easy stuff. It was funny at the end. It was a place over near Footscray Cemetery. Big complex. And they manufactured 44-gallon drums. And that, recycle them. And one of my blokes said, you'll have workers in here at night time, but they don't tell you. Well, fair enough. And it's blowing a gale. In the cemetery, you got those little lights flickering away. And it's dark. And I've got chains with keys and everything on me like a pack mule. And I come around the corner and I seen this thing move. I thought, it's one of the workers. I thought, no, hang on, it's a public holiday. And, I was good 30, 40 yards away from him. And I yelled out, stop. And he just dropped what he had in his hands and took off. Now, the area he was in was full of rubbish. So I thought, I've got you. He'll stumble. So I've come down, ran around the corner, pulled the gun out, yelled out for him to stop again. And I had him lined up. I thought, hang on, he's running away, can't shoot him, because it's not self-defence. So I put one across the top of his head. Well, the muzzle flash out of it, the echo through all those 44-gallon drums was huge. And he's jumped straight over a barbed wire fence, one go. Didn't stop. I'm just going, shit, that was good. But what he was doing is he was taking the diesel fuel out of the pumps. All right. And straight back at the back of the place is where all the truckies would park. So I reckon he's short on fuel and he's coming in to get it. But he's done it before because he's jumped through all the rubbish and steel and that. He knew it too well. So I thought, he's done this before. But the reason he pulled the gun out, it was only a couple of weeks before one of the patrollees got shot over at Altona Gate Shopping Centre. And so in the last probably 7, 8 years, somebody's actually put their hand up for it. And it was a guy mucking around his backyard with a 22, put a shot in the air, and it's come straight in, hit the guard, killed him. And there was another guard that was murdered on a railway station. So that all happened within a couple of weeks. And most patrols were all getting very edgy, especially when the bloke got shot because there was just nothing there. So everybody's pulled guns out first and asked questions later. But that's when you find out how long a second is. And that's a very long time. So, all the years I carried a gun, and he ever pulled it out 4 times, and he ever fired it once. That was once too often. So, yeah. But no hesitations. It's them or me. Would not hesitate. Yeah. So, that's just the way I saw it. But makes you think, Vince. Makes you think.
It sure does. Because, as you say, it wasn't about fear or anything like that for you probably any time in your life when you've been in a situation like that.
No, I'm not scared of anything. Never have been. As I said earlier, more front than mine, as the old man said. I'll have a crack at anything. Don't tell me I can't do something. When I left school, the vice principal said, you'll be nothing but bum. You won't make anything of yourself. I said, I'll prove you wrong. Within 6 years, I was running my first business. And back in those days, he would do school excursions to factories or wherever. And I was in the pub having a beer with a mate. He said, they're teachers from our old school. I thought, okay. So I went up there and spoke to this girl, and I said, so-and-so still there? Yeah. Good, give him my card. I'm the bloke who wouldn't make anything of myself. She just stared at me. And prove a point. Don't tell me I can't do it. Because I'll prove you wrong. And that's why I've done everything my whole life. So, it's been fun. And now I can just sit back and wait.
Hurry up and wait. So that story of the only time you fired your gun actually brings me to a note Tom made that I think is really interesting. He's basically written down that obviously the perception of security is that it's about muscle and brawn.
Mm-hmm.
But Tom's made the note that that's not your approach to it.
It's not.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you're about de-escalation?
It's a smarter option. Think about it. The mistake that we make in the industry is we do not teach them the art of negotiation. Right? You got two different types of security guards. Well, I'll change that. There's one type of security guard, and then there's the crowd control. Those that work the venues. And you've seen they're all muscled up. Most of them are on steroids or whatever. And then at your big concerts and that, you've then got the Indians who, by nature, are passive. I've seen a couple of Indian boys that, no question, would jump in first hand and have a go. But the others will all sit back. They don't like confrontation. So this is where you've got to learn to talk. I've had a couple of situations. I think one of the funnier ones was at Yarra Glen Racetrack. I was working for somebody else, giving them a hand, and they put me on bar duty. Well, the races haven't been started, and there's an argument between a couple of groups of blokes and the catering staff. And I went over to sort it out. I said, what's wrong? And they said, they won't serve us food. I said, okay. What's going on? No, we're not ready. I said, fair enough. So I said to the lads, I said, they're not open, they're not ready, but they'll try and have something ready in about 15, 20 minutes. Is that good enough for you? Yeah, that's fine then. Sorted. I had 2 bucks parties, 3 hens parties there. It rained. So everybody was in the bar. There's about 600 people at the races, all in the bar. So if anything started, you couldn't get anywhere. And kept tabs on the girls and the lads, and they were all right during the day. And at the end of the day, the girls said, we need security. I said, what for? Oh, you need to come with us because we're going into the city now. I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. And the lads said, you need to come with us. I said, why is that? We're off to the strippers. I said, no, I'm too old for that crap. But unbeknownst to me, Mickey Dunn was standing behind me, who was the boss. He said, I've been watching you for 20 minutes. He said, you work for me now, no one else. I said, that's not going to happen. So I've got my own business to run. But by putting them on side, It makes life a lot easier. There was another place that we worked in Williamstown, and I had a mob of Maoris come through, and they were a demolition crew. They were pulling down part of the mobile joint. And they're in, it's freezing cold, middle of winter. So I've got my big overcoat on, I've got a jacket underneath, I've got scarves, I've got gloves, I've got beanies, everything. Because the wind's coming straight off the bay. And one of them come out to me, he says, "Oh, the elder's been watching you." I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "You're a very nice man." I said, "Yep." He said, "Any trouble?" He said, "We're here to help you." I said, "Cool." Now, Maoris are big lads, so I want them on my side. I don't want them on anybody else's side. And at the end of the night, they all had their photos taken with me because they wanted them. And half were going back home to New Zealand, half were going back to Sydney. But by being nice to someone, being respectful, gets you a long way to achieving what you need to achieve. You take your nightclubs, how often you see the guys smile at the door?
Never.
That's it. And they look down at you. And what happens then? When trouble starts, it's all aggression. Everything's aggression. And it achieves nothing. I've seen them. One of the venues where they're in Brunswick Street. There's a joint across the road, first floor, it was called. And the guys out the front were just aggressive all the time. There was an old drunk they had down on the ground, and one of the guys just went and put his heel into his hand and squashed it. What's it achieve?
Nothing. Just makes him angrier.
He's drunk, he's hopeless. He can't do anything. And I don't see the sense in that. Not at all. So, and I said, we need to teach them the art of negotiation, conflict management, as they call it these days, and de-escalate everything, and you'll get a better result. There are times where it won't work. Then you go to the other option. But 9 times out of 10, you can talk down any situation. And that's just the way I've done it. And all the guys who work for me have been taught the same thing. And always remember, you have no more power than any other citizen. Under Section 458, I think it is of the Crimes Act, citizens arrest. And I pumped them and pumped them. You are not a copper. Do not act like a copper. And we never wore blue uniforms. We wore a brown uniform. So you cannot misidentify any of my people with coppers. And I think that went a long way with a lot of the local coppers that I dealt with. So, yeah.
Did you pick that up from somewhere, or is that just how you've always done it?
No, Buck, who was an ex-copper, he taught me a few things. He's long gone now. But again, their uniforms were brown. So he had that very definite do not look like a copper attitude. And I probably kept that from him. And that's just something I've always done. And it's worked for me.
What do you reckon is the worst situation that you've had to de-escalate?
Oh, God.
If you had to pick one or two.
Tommy?
Oh, Christ. Chadstone? At the bus terminal at Chadstone? Being called a gorilla at Misty?
Oh, that was just fun.
Yes. I just think it's funny because I was actually there for that one.
That was just fun. Chatty was interesting.
There's so much from Chadstone.
There is.
I just liked when I went that one time where I was there, and then you jumped in the control room, and then just followed one person through all of the cameras. You can't fucking hide. You cannot hide anywhere. Can't get away with anything. It's all on camera. Like, geez, that is comprehensive.
Yeah, you're right. There is so many things with Chatty, isn't there?
Yeah.
Geez, what do you
I mean, there's a couple of blind spots with those cameras in the...
There wasn't too many.
No, nah. You knew where they were, though.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Billy. The big one, there's a group of people in Oakley called the Oakley Wogs. They've been around for 50 years, right? There's 3 tiers to them. There's the older blokes, who are the Dons. Then there's the middle-aged blokes, and then the young bucks. So young bucks go out and do a lot of the crimes. And then they go up to the next blokes, so they'll do some of the more serious stuff, and then the cartel's over the top of them. I was the youth liaison officer. I don't know how I got that job, but I did. And I got to know most of these kids. And one had been banned for life, as such. And I spotted him upstairs in the food court as I was going home. And I walked up to him, and they immediately went on the defensive. And I thought, okay, so I spoke to him. I said, okay, you having your soft drink and doing this? He said, yep. I said, well, when you finish that, I want you to leave. I said, don't argue, just walk out the door, go home. Oh, okay. Other guards are running around saying, and ringing me on the phone saying, he's banned, he's this, he's that. I said, just settle down. So, he goes. A week or 2 later, I get a call saying, oh, this bloke's looking for you. And I am. And I always think it was one of my investigations. And eventually, this guy turns up. I said, what do you want? And he said, you spoke to my brother. I said, did I? I said, who would that be? So he told me, oh, yeah. He said, I want to thank you. I said, for what? For treating him with respect. He said, he won't do any harm. I said, okay. And I thought, let's now turn this around a little bit. Because we're showing them some respect, where prior to me, everything was aggressive towards them. And you don't achieve anything. So, his name was Robbie. So he was all right. But what I was doing, turning them, but they also become my intel people. Right? And yeah, girls and boys, and the girls were as bad as the boys. And 2 of these guys went over towards Coburg to a party. They were invited. Well, they give somebody a smack and come back and they're laughing about it. And one of the girls said to me, oh, trouble's coming. Okay, why? And she told me the story. I thought, okay. So we were going to a black tie affair on the Saturday night. I get this information on the Thursday night. So I rang the coppers, who were the liaison people, and they said, no, we're not hearing anything. I said, well, my information is it's going to happen Saturday. Oh, we'll see if we can get a car out there. Okay. A few hours later, she rings me back. She said, Oakley police have had several phone calls from parents saying, trouble's coming. I thought, right. She said, we might send a couple of cars over. Whatever. So I go down, because Sharon was getting her hair done. I thought I'll have a bit of a sticky beat. Bill's in the control room. And I've seen a lot of different faces. I thought, this is unusual. And they were milling around. I thought, okay. And I estimate the age group ranged from 10 up into late 30s. And I thought, this is not really looking that good. So, and I got the crew together. And I'm not rostered on. So I'm in civvies. And I said, it looks like something's going to happen. We don't have any extra staff. I said, your main objective in all of this today is to make sure nobody breaks my nose. Because I've got a black tie affair to go to tonight, and I don't want to go with a broken nose and 2 black eyes. Nobody saw the funny side in that.
No one's got a sense of humour
No
anymore.
one's got a sense of humour. So we went out and monitored, and I said, what we're going to do, I said, we're going to treat them like sheep. And they're milling around these, push them down. When they go down, push them back up. And once you do this a few times, they'll get sick and tired of them and they'll move on. Okay. So we started doing that. And I said, then eventually we'll get them out to the bus stops. We'll get them out of here. And I walked past some of the girls. And they said, we got some more intel for you. I said, what's that? Apparently they had a car loaded guns. The Westies. Well, that's going to make life interesting. And so I ran the cop and said, this is what we believe. Can't prove it. I said, okay. They had 2 patrol cars there. Well, that's not really going to do too much. And we started herding up and got him out, pushed him out. And I got Bill to get headshots of everybody out there so we could identify people later on. And he said, yep, I've got all those. I said, good. And then we find out later there was more coming. With the police chopper flying overhead, they actually stopped the train between stations. Apparently the train was packed with more Westies. So it was going to be a disaster. But eventually we got them all on the buses and got them out. There was over 100 people out there at the bus stop. So I thought, yep, this is good. And I called Bill on the radio. I said, where's the coppers? Where's the coppers? Need them here now. He said, I'll call you on your phone. I said, what's going on? He said, they're not coming. I said, what do you mean they're not coming? They're on the other side of the shopping centre. They're not coming until they got back up. Right. Okay. No sooner had we got everybody out of the shopping centre, coppers turn up. And he says, you blokes are understaffed. You keep your mouth shut. I said, we're here. You sat over the other side. I said, don't even talk to me. So that shut him down. And I disappeared, and we sorted up and went home, went out for the night. And there was a meeting on the Monday, which I wasn't privy to, where my company, so to say, I'd done the wrong thing because I was off duty. Therefore, there was no work cover and whatever else. So they made me look like the bad guy. And the centre manager said, at least he was here. Where were you blokes? That was the end of the conversation. No thanks from my company, nothing. So, but I was used to that. So that was one lot.
Did that ever kick off somewhere else?
Not in our area, no. No. Once I got them offside, I didn't care.
No, of course not.
Not interested in it. Now, the one that Tommy mentioned about following someone, we got a call to say there was a bloke on the bus with a rifle, semi-automatic rifle. And that came from the bus driver. I thought, okay. And he was dressed like Blade Runner, one of those big leather coats, Asian, and with a shopping trolley thing. And I kicked the control room operator out because I had no confidence in him. And I ran it. And I found him. And I'm watching him. And he went through a series of areas with different cameras and that, and then he went outside in the car park. So I got all the guards to drop off. And the car park guard, which has got a nice flashing light on the roof, he kept following him when I told him not to. So I just said, get out of the area. And I used another bloke who was ex-military that worked for us. I said, you can follow him at a distance. He said, okay. Because Matt knew what he was doing. The others are just wannabe superheroes. And I watched him. And he got up near where Myers is there. And with his shopping trolley, he's put it in the gutter. And he's walked away. I thought, Christ. And I'm thinking, well, is there a bomb in there? You know, why would you leave that there and walk away? Then he went back to him. Then he started talking to him. I thought, hello. We've got a bit of enough here. So I felt a bit better. And we'd called the coppers, and they said, we don't have any cars to respond. It's a Friday night. And we made several calls with the same response. I thought, okay. Now, as luck would have it, there was one camera on the corner of the Myer building that we could rotate. And this guy goes across the road to what they call a halfway motel. And that camera, I could zoom straight into the reception area. And I've got him there, and he was booking in. So I thought, now we know where he is. And I let it go at that. And so I thought, that's my bit done. I thought, we'll write the report up. And I'll come off shift. And I got a phone call on the Saturday from a detective. And he says, you ran that operation? I said, yeah. He said, I was listening to the radios and there was no car responding to it. I said, oh, yeah. And he was in St Kilda Road. And he said, I told the boss what was going on. And the boss just said, oh, well, we'll shut down Dandenong Road and we'll evacuate the shopping centre. He said, hang on. He said, it's Friday night. He said, you want to shut down the whole of Dandenong Road and clear the shopping centre, 40,000 people. He said, that's going to be mayhem because it's peak hour traffic, 7 o'clock at night. He said, oh, well, what do we do? He said, well, we'll send the sulkies out there to have a look at it and keep him under wraps for a while, which they did. And they raided the room on the Saturday morning. And this guy rang me up and was telling me about it. He said, I'm going to send you a photo. He said, given the fact that it was night time, he said, those passengers on the bus wouldn't realise that what he had was an actual toy gun. It's the only telling point is it's got an orange tip on it, which all toy guns have an orange tip on them. And he said, at night time, you wouldn't have told the difference. He said, it's immaculate. And I thought, you're right. It's an arm-light rifle, blah, blah. You wouldn't know the difference. And he said, who do I talk to in relation to telling them what a good job you've done? I said, oh, mate, I said, I really don't care. He said, tell centre management. Nothing ever come of it. Nothing was ever said to me about it. And the company put out its own monthly newsletter. Employee of the month meant to some idiot had come up with a new recycling idea. And I thought, here you go. We just done all this great work following this idiot. And we don't even get a kudos on it. It explains the world to me the way it is today. But it's just what you do. And do it in such a way that, we had another Sheila there carrying a gun, again in Myers, a real gun. And I spotted her earlier, and she was doing cash and transit stuff. And she's in plain clothes. Oh, she had a white shirt on, which had the epaulets, but there was no badges on them. And I thought, okay, I know what you're doing. We got a call from Myers saying there was a person in their store with a gun. So I thought, okay, I'll go up and have a look. And two of the guards were racing each other to get up there. And I'm going, just pull back. He said, stay out of the way. Because they wanted to be the superstars. And as soon as I come up behind her, I tweaked her who she was. I thought, oh, well. And these two guards are like dogs waiting to go. And I walked up to her and said, right. I said, have a word? Yep. I said, I know what you've been doing. You're doing CIT. What's it got to do with you? I said, it's got a lot to do with me. I said, could you have come in here wearing a firearm? I'm allowed to. I said, I'm guessing you're on your break. You're not wearing a uniform. Therefore, nobody would understand what you're doing. I spotted you earlier, and I knew what you're up to. I said, yeah, you don't have to explain yourself to me. The coppers are already on their way. I said, you're going to have to explain to them why you're carrying a gun when technically you're off duty. I said, it may cost you your licence at the end of the day. I said, you should have taken it off and hidden it in your car. I said, then we wouldn't have had any trouble. So, sure enough, coppers turned up and they got straight into her. And I walked away. The security manager, which was Rowan, then bails me up and he has a go at me. What do you think you're doing? You know, you haven't even got a vest. I said, I have. I've got an orange vest. Oh, you're just a funny bastard. Oh, well.
Again, no sense of humour.
Exactly. But because I'd seen it earlier, I had already made that assessment. Because I was the team leader over there. So my job was to train all the guards and know everything. And that's just one of those things. But everybody wants to rush in without knowing what they're rushing into. And that's when people make mistakes and that's when people get hurt. Sit back, assess, then make the move.
Obviously, there's a lot of stories from that part of your life and career. Are there any particular situations that really stick in your head because they were particularly dangerous, particularly bizarre?
Bizarre.
Well, I mean, there's a good song about Chadston, isn't there? From Francis? Weirdos, Superheroes and Me? Didn't he write that about Chatty?
Probably.
I think I remember you saying that one on stage, and I thought, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I never worried about any bits. You know, it probably was. I remember Jess, when she went to do her course, and I said, well, tell me who their trainer is and who the RTO is. She said, okay. Turns out her trainer was somebody that I knew personally, known for a number of years. And Brenda Gassero said, oh, you Donnie Doolan's daughter? She said, yeah. He said, let me tell you about your dad. And she came back and she said, you never told me any of the dangerous things you've done. I said, you don't need to know what I've done. Simple. And besides that, Prendergast has got a big mouth. So I said, just ask him how his nose is. She said, why? I said, just ask him. You know, you've been talking to your father again, haven't you? Yep. But, yeah. Look, there's probably been one or two situations and you go, that could have gone a bit differently. But Yeah, I don't think about it. It's interesting. We had a conversation. Came up when I went and seen that psychologist, which was interesting. She said, you're going from 100 mile an hour down to 0. She said, it's very hard to adjust. And I said, yeah. And I spoke to Billy and one of the trainers, and I said, can you ever remember doing debriefs at Chaston? He said, no, we never did. I said, yeah. I said, kind of thought that. We were all too busy. I had an incident where a young girl threw herself over the balcony. But it's quite a big drop from that first floor down to the ground. She had a disability, and she's argued with her carers. And then she took a run and straight over the balcony. Nobody had time to grab her. Never broke a bone. Nothing. And we had a trolley which was kitted out with our first aid kit, oxygen bottles, a pop-up tent that you could put up in a matter of seconds and give people privacy. So when we heard we had the jumper, we put all that in place, put the tent up, because all around the top, and you've been to Chatty, right? So you know how far that fall is. And everybody's watching, all rubbernecks. The two carers were both actually nurses, which was good. When I looked around, all I could see was all the management, centre management people staring, watching to see what we were going to do. Because they were always there looking for mistakes. And I said to a couple of guards, I said, go up, get any statements of people and push everybody else away. Move them on so we don't have a show. Hence the reason for the tent, so nobody can see what's going on. We went back and reviewed footage, and all you could see was this tiny black dot just go bang in half a second. And there was no debriefing after any of that. There was another one, a bloke had a heart attack and died. And a guard stayed with him because there was no ambulances available. An hour and a half she sat with this dead person. And they put a bit of a barrier around her. But you could see him. And there was no debrief. He wasn't sitting on the body for an hour and a half.
It's got a weigh on you.
Yeah. So, I suppose when you look at those things and you don't dwell on them, move on to the next job, move on to the job. So you forget more than you remember. But somebody will bring it up, which happened last weekend when I was up in Queensland for a birthday party. People I hadn't seen for 30 years. And started talking about things that happened. You go, oh, yeah, I remember that. And it's just something that will trigger you. So, but, you know, there's other things, Chatty, like, you know, we had Chris Lilly out there, who I don't rate at all.
I've met him once before as a backup singer for when he did the Logies.
Oh, really?
Weird bloke.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say.
Yeah, strange, weird. But we had thousands of people there to see. It was a meet and greet bullshit thing. I don't know how many people there. It's just, we had a kid that went from where we were up past David Jones out to Myers. All right. And then there was a zigzag coming into him. He was only supposed to be there for 90 minutes, and his manager, who was one of his schoolmates, said, oh, you'll keep going. And I'm looking at it and I go, this is going to be interesting. And we tried to shut it down a couple of times. And people jumping up now, I've been here for 4 hours. I'm just getting here now. How do you do this? You've got to make a decision. And there was some other clown running around taking heaps of photos. I don't know who he was. But one of the guards pointed him out to me. I thought, okay. So I just quietly put my hand up on his camera and he threatened to sue me. I'd go for your life, mate. I don't care. Just piss off. So I thought, no, we're going to make a move. So I had 4 guards on that job, plus myself. I grabbed the duty manager and I said, you're running point. What do you mean point? I said, we're going to form a wedge. I said, when I say go, we all go together. He said, okay. And he was shitting bricks. And so I said to Louis' people, I said, when I give you the nod, I said, those people I want in the group, ready to move when I say. And so I put the guards 2 and 2, Andrew in the front. So I just grabbed Billy by the back of his pants, hand on his shoulder, I said, now go. And we just pushed forward. 2 of the boys were to sit at the entrance to centre management, so nobody could come down the hallway. And we could hear them fuming out the front. And we got into the room office there, and Bill and his people were having a giggle. They thought it was great fun. Totally oblivious. And I said, where's your car? I said, oh, it's in the car park. I said, you had reserved parking for you. We have this area where you're out of sight. Oh, we thought we'd go for a walk around. So, okay. So he goes. Took about an hour for him to settle down. And somebody said, oh, I've just spotted him walking through the car park. I said, let him go. Not interested. And the next morning, Sunday morning, I'm off. The phone rings. It's my big boss, the owner of the company. What the fuck went wrong out of Chatty? I said, I don't know. Haven't you read the paper yet? No, actually, it's my day off. Front page of the paper. Right at Chatty, Chris Louis. I got blamed for it. Nothing to do with me. And Craig just kept going and going. I thought, oh, fuck this. And I said, mate, I said, it is what it is. That's bullshit in the paper. So that didn't happen. I said, the only injury was some idiot leant up against the coffee machine and burned his arm. Nothing to do with me. And he hung up in disgust. But Harwood would do that. He worked on shock and awe. He's ex-soggy. So he came in and like a raging bull in a tea shop. But I got stuck there in the 24-hour trade one night. And he decided to go walk about with me. He wasn't saying a word. Oh, don't you know him? Don't you know him? Can you sort him out? You're a big superstar now, aren't you? Because one of our supervisors, something happened there, and our poor old Anthony's talking to this kid, and the kid's just sitting there totally ignoring him. He said, who are you? Oh, I'm the supervisor. He said, well, I'm not talking to you. I'll talk to Don, but not you. Piss off. And you go, but. I said, no, I'll talk to Don.
All comes back to respect, doesn't it?
Exactly right. And that's what it's about. So everybody's going, hoo-ha, and kids are just laughing at them. I'm going, well, you know, what's going on? They would also abuse that too. A couple got caught out shoplifting and I'm just going, really? Oh, well, sorry. I said, no, you're not. I said, you do it again, you got caught, mate. You know, give me, bro, trust you, I want the trust back. And one of the girls I actually ran into on a training course for tap. And I'm looking at her, I thought, yeah, no, you can't remember her name. I'm going, how's so-and-so? She said, you're the one who banned me from chats. And I said, that's me. And it was sad because 2 of them were dead. One was murdered. No one was OD. Somebody else had gone somewhere else. Somebody else had done something else. So. And they were all, you could see, they were the type that were never, ever going to achieve too much. She woke up to herself and got out. So, but she just said, you were right. There you go. So, but Chatty was interesting. Interesting place. So, but yeah. And that was 35 years of that crap. And there you go. That's what you get. So.
All I can remember, what I remember from Chatty, when you had a couple of the guys from the Chasers, and then you brought back the poster signed, which ended up getting ripped.
Right.
By a certain little sister. And what's his name? Archer.
Lord Jeffrey Archer.
That's the one.
Pain in the arse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also known commonly as a criminal. Because he done 3 years for tax avoidance.
Oh, yeah.
But he kept his lordship.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, he was out doing a book signing. And it's the old story, your shit don't stink. And he looked down at everybody. And I thought, well, you don't impress me too much. And he wanted a new bag of some description. So he sent his PA to go find a new bag. So I sent one of our cards with somebody who knew the shopping centre, being Sharon. She shopped at every shop.
Yeah, that sounds very right.
Go with them, sort it out, yeah. Well, that guy for about 40-odd minutes come back. He's taking, no, don't want that bag. Go find something else. And it was just the arrogance of the man. No. Couldn't get rid of him quick enough. But we'd done Terry Irwin, very quite shy person. Damien Leaf, who won
Australian Idol or something.
Australian Idol,
yeah.
X Factor or whatever it was. Nice bloke, good bloke. Berkey from St Kilda Footy Club. Chasers War, they were great.
Yeah, they just seemed like they'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they were. They had quite a few people there for their show. And one of the girls fainted. So we put her over on the couch. And they spotted it and they said, oh, just get her to stay there and we'll chat to her personally when we finish. I said, yep. And they spent 10 minutes with her, just chatting. They were really good. And that was upstairs, and they went down the ABC shop and done some book signings or whatever down there. And as we were walking them out through one of the tunnels, Julian, I think it is the big bloke, he said, oh, this would be a great place to do a sketch in here. And Sharon's gone, no, it wouldn't. Why not? Because we've just bought a house, and you come in and do that, we'll lose our job, so I guess I'll have to rip your balls out. I said, oh, well, maybe we won't come here. And she said, that'd be a good idea. And they never did. But no, they were a really good bunch of guys. I'm just trying to think who else there was. No, there's been others, but I just can't remember. Because it was my job to put the VIP teams together, security teams. So my job at Chatty was pretty easy. Running around drinking coffee with the security manager and making sure guards are trained up and everything else. So, yeah, it was good fun. I didn't have to patrol all that often. I did do it, but not like the other blokes. So, but yeah, I'm just trying to think who else we've done. But Archer was the one that really I found annoying. Everybody else was very polite to get along with and more than accommodating to the public. So, but yeah. There's other things happening out there too. What else is happening out there, Tom?
Oh, Christ. I don't know. It's not like I was there for any of them. The only thing that I was actually physically there for was when we checked out the control room.
Yep.
And, yeah, you just picked someone at random.
Yeah, and showed you how the camera.
And you're like, this is, how it works. And just literally followed some random woman.
Yeah.
Going to store to store to store.
Yeah.
And then out. I was like, far out.
Yeah. We had, they put in this stupid policy with guards weren't to be seen smoking. Oh, well, fair enough. Most of them went out loading docks anyway. It was Christmas trade time. And centre management was a guy called Les Corser, the father of Roger Corser, the actor. And Les was great, but I got on really well with him. None of the other guards liked him for whatever reason. He was a bit of an old woman. He was a good bloke, very knowledgeable. Been out to Chaston for 30, 40 years. Knew every nook and cranny. If something was going on, you could look and you'll see Les sticking his head out through a little hidey hole somewhere. He never said much. This particular night, Bill's in the control room, and so somebody arced up somewhere, so I had to go out and deal with them. And this guy was just being super aggressive. Come from down the Pines in Frankston, which is just full of rubbish. And I said to his girlfriend, I said, which car? It's on the other side of the shop. I said, you go get the car. Bring him back. I said, we're just going to hold him here. Okay. And he's arguing with people driving by. That's how drunk or stoned or whatever he was on. And I was sitting there and I thought, I'll just have a smoke. And he started to move forward, so I pushed him backwards, put my hand on his chest and handed him up against the wall. And when I got rid of him, I was going to go, damn, no, I'm Bill, because Bill would just get the cameras on whoever was dealing with it, make sure everyone was safe. And I thought, he's got me smoking on camera. This is not good. So I called him. I said, did you get that on camera? Yep. Well, And Les pops up. He was Oscar 6, Oscar 6, Tango 1, yes. Any guy need to know? No, not at all, Oscar 6. No paperwork? Nope, no paperwork. Oh, that's good then. And he disappeared. So I went down to the control room and I said to Bill, you got me smoking? He says, no, I got you with your hand on his throat. I said, I didn't have my hand around his throat. I had it on his chest. He said, chest? No, you had him by the fucking throat. I said, right. He said, but it's all right, I've already deleted it. Good boy. All evidence gone. So that was the best thing at working with Bill, because he was old school as well. And we would go for the headshots and make sure every guard was safe when they were dealing with things, because you never knew what was going to happen out there with the kids. And most of them all carried knives. So it would be on for young and old. But we done a private function. And, I forget what, 18th birthday, whatever it was. And I said to some guys, I said, got a private function, want to work it? No. Paying cash money? No. Because they wouldn't work with me. At that time, there was something going on. And I spoke to this Matt, ex-army guy. And I said, mate, I've got this job, it's 200 cash. And I said, there's a possibility Oakley Wogs might be there. Well, he's lit up, hasn't he? He said, this time it's on our own ground. I said, yep, I'm in. Because we couldn't touch him at Chatty. It was a hands-off policy. But now it's a private function. It's our rules, not theirs. So I said, yep. He said, I'm in. I said, well, I need another couple of blokes. He said, I'll get Francis to come. I said, all right. There was one of his other mates, another bouncer. I had Timmy Wood was going to cruise by.
Oh, Jesus.
And, I got the fourth guard I needed. And everyone's booked in, everybody's locked. Word's gotten out that it was the Oakley Wogs. All of a sudden, all the guards want to come and join the team. Too late, boys. I've booked the team. Oh, so we can't get in. I said, no, you didn't want to earlier, so why would I worry about it now? There's a few personality clashes happening out there at that stage. And so we're there, and I told them, I said, register with the coppers, do this, the standard procedures for parties. And they had it in the garage, and had a roller door at the front, so we had that pulled down. And the policy always was no glass. You rock up with stubbies, you're not taking them in. No, we'll hold them. You can come out and have a drink here, that's it. So we had a nice collection of stubbies and everything else. And the coppers turned up. And I said, you want to do a walkthrough? He said, oh, yeah, we'll do a walkthrough. And we had one guard inside, making sure everything was okay. And he's come out and he says, oh, there's a bloke in there with a bottle of vodka. I said, no, that'd be Dad. I said, he's all right. I said, oh. And I said, this is the best organised party we've ever seen. And I said, that's all right, lads. I said, anytime you want to go out. I said, you want to go and have a walkthrough? I said, the scenery's pretty. He said, that is pretty good in there, isn't it? Yep. Because young girls all in their short skirts and whatever else. And we're waiting. We're waiting to see what's going to happen. Nothing. And I thought, Jesus, why haven't they gate crashed this party? And when I spoke to the birthday boy, when it was all over, I said, because he went to school with him, I said, did you tell him you had the guards some chatty? He said, oh, yeah. I said, that explains it. What do you mean? I said, they know what was going to happen if they tried to gate crash the party. Because there's a lot of payback coming from chatty. He told him, and they've all just kept clear of the joint. So there was a lot of disappointed guards. And we went back to Knox, was it Lulu's? Knox?
Yeah, it's Knox City shopping
Well,
centre.
Matt and Frank, that's where they used to work, at Lulu's. And we just walked straight in. Drinks on the house and everything else. And we're having a chat, and Matt was saying, him and this Frank, they were on, and there was a bit of a blue. It was only those two against 25. He said, we cleaned them all up, sent them home. So, they were hardcore. Because I know when Matt was up working Fortitude Valley, he said, young girls there, saying how good she with her karate. She black belt karate, rah, rah, rah. And so I got sick of that, so I grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground and held her up against the wall. I said, now what's your fucking karate going to do for you? He said, defeated kicking and everything else. He said, silly bitch. But Matt was just the sort of guy you don't muck with. Hell of a nice bloke. I got on really well with him. And that was it. But, yeah. Anybody's talking is bullshit. Those that don't talk know what they're doing. And that's what it's about. So, but I've seen some of them. Well, Tommy Dippin.
Yeah.
He got picked up by the neck. They had him dangled 6 inches off the ground. Young Anna came out and said, you better come upstairs to sort this bloke out. Why? He said, he's got Tom by the throat. Oh, I guess I better come up then.
I guess Tom's not even that small either. Oh, that's some decent strength to be able to pick him up.
Oh, yeah. So, that was a bunch of Kiwis again. Guy was skinny, dude. Shit, he was strong. And it was the 21st birthday party. And there's about half a dozen that were licensed security guys. And one of them, I can't think of his name now, he was obviously the boss. And they're also trying to figure out who you are. And they'll go, oh, I've got my security. Oh, have you? How long have you been? Oh, I've only been doing it for a little while. Oh, I've been doing it for 8 years, have you? Oh, that's good. And I play them along. And they'll, where do you work? I worked here, worked there. I don't know. How's Dave? Oh, you know Dave. Yeah, I know Dave. Known him for a number of years. How long have you been doing this? I said, oh, just a little while. Where else you with it? Oh, how's Prendergast going? Oh, you know him too, do you? Mm. And they go, how long have you been doing this? Just a little while. I would never tell. But it was enough for them to stop big noting themselves. But anyway, this particular night, it was back when they had the 2 o'clock walkout. And I was in there talking to the guys that downstairs having a smoke. One was a short bloke. He said, I used to do security. I said, did you? He said, yeah. And he said, give it away. I said, why? He said, I always got bashed. I'm the smallest one in the group. They always bashed me. He said, I've had enough of that. I thought, well, that's funny. And the dude that had dipped him by the neck came down. He had no shirt on again. He kept taking his shirt off for whatever reason. And I said, this guy, I can't think of his name now. I said, mate, I said, you got to talk to your bro. You got to get your cousin under control. He needs to wear a shirt in there. Yeah, okay. Goes over, talk to him, and it's on. In the middle of Brunswick Street. On the tram tracks. And they bounced off this car. This poor girl's just parked the car there. And it just took the mirror off the side of that car. And there's a big vegan restaurant and a humongous big glass window, like bigger than that wall. They've hit that and it's wobbling like that. And you know, this is not good. And all of a sudden there's 6 cop cars. Bang. And out comes the OC spray. They're spraying everybody. Oh, this is definitely not good. And they grabbed the main bloke, took 4 coppers to put him in the back of the divvy van, and they were still spraying him. And the divvy van's rocking because he's kicking the shitter out of it. And this senior Connie or so said, well, arrest them. I said, stop. I said, you've got the main offender. I said, these people were trying to calm him down. I said, he's the troublemaker. Okay? The little guy that was the bouncer sitting there screaming his tits off. I'm blind, I can't see. He'd been sprayed, hadn't he? So we had some water from Anna. One of my guards got some water. So I washed him out. I said, now, do not touch your eyes. Don't do anything. All right. What's he do? Grabs his shirt and wipes his face with it, which is covered in OC spray. And it off and run it again. Spray. And Anna's looked at me. She's got wide eyes. She said, I think I've copped a bit of this too. I said, get upstairs and clean yourself up. And Dippin was the same. I missed out, which I wasn't complaining about.
No.
I could taste it in my mouth. And in this little doorway in the dark, there's this bloke lying down there. And I thought, who the hell's that? And it's just the main guard. And the bloke with me was telling me to piss off. He said, don't. He said, that's Don. I know his voice. I said, right. I said, get upstairs, clean yourself up a bit. I'll be up as soon as I can. Okay. So I get up there and I apologise to him. He said, it's all right. Not your fault. I said, okay. He said, but we'll sort it out tomorrow. I said, how do you figure that? He said, I'm the elder. You're the elder. He said, he wants my job. He wants my position. And he said, he's too young, hot-headed. He said, but we'll sort it out tomorrow. I said, where? He said, in church. Good. Let me know which church so I don't come to it tomorrow. And the elders will sit back and not say anything. They'll have people do their bits and pieces for them. And the thing that we learnt very quickly with the young married lads, if they arc up, don't ever say, I'm going to tell your dad. Because they'll go, yep. And dads will praise them. If you say, I'm going to tell your mama, they'll go to water real quick. All marrieds are shit scared of their mums. They rule the roost. And that young buck was being a smart ass. I said, if I tell your dad, he's going to say you're a good lad. He said, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to tell your mum. I want an arsehole you are. Oh, don't do that. Do you have to do that? I said, I will if you don't behave yourself. All right, I'll behave myself. Good boy. They are petrified of the mothers. And there's a co here, he said, it's not just the marrieds. He said, even the white lads are the same. So in New Zealand, it's the women that run around the household. But yeah, it's been interesting. But any real dangerous stuff, I don't know. Probably has been.
Probably. Do you think there's any real strong misconceptions about private security or corporate security or anything like that people would have?
What an interesting question. Misconceptions.
Things like that people see it as a very brawny job, but having those negotiation skills and de-escalation skills is so important. Are there any other ways you think people would look at the job and look down on it or think it's too easy in some ways?
I think a lot of them would see it as a nothing type job. And in reality, 9 times out of 10, it is a nothing kind of job. You got situations where some blokes will use the same licence, which has happened a few times. And a lot of them are only there to make money to pay for their education. Right, that's why you see so many Indians and other foreigners working it. And it's there just to pay for their education and living. They're not interested in getting involved if something starts. I had that situation one night, again, including Marys. They got kicked off one of the party boats. And they kicked them off at Williamstown. So they had to be pretty bad to get kicked off one of those boats. And one of them was super aggressive. I was watching him. And he's kicking every car he can see. It's a job that I would normally do with Francis, but he was obviously working the band. They sent this Indian boy down. He worked inside. Every time I looked at him, he was leaned up against the wall. He wasn't doing anything. And I thought, okay. And I thought, and this time I actually moved my car away from the pub, where normally I would keep it close. And I thought, Jesus. And I thought, he's going to hit my car. And sure enough, he did. Put his fist into the bonnet of the car. Oh, damn. And there were 7 of them. Oh, this is not going to be good. I looked, the Indian bloke's not even looking at me. I thought, all right. I thought, how do I deal with this? So I ran up there and yelled out to him. I said, mate, what are you doing? I said, I'm unemployed. I've got kids at home. I can't afford to fix the car. And I'm crying to him. Mr. Aggression, he's not interested. 2 hours said, oh, mate, we're sorry. We'll see if we fix it for you. All of a sudden, they're all helping me. Again, the older one, I've got a security licence. Well, that's good. Been doing it for 5 years. Oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah, yours, just a little while. And we go play that game again. And in the end, he turned and said, any of these boys arc up, you tell them that I said not to. So I'm guessing he was the older in that group. So I thought, fair enough. But anyway, they disappeared. I had a small dip, which I managed to get out eventually. And when I got back, the Indian boy came and said, oh, is everything all right? He is now. So you got these different groups. People are just going to let me say, well, no, why is he here? He's not doing anything. And then you'll get the others, which are more senior, that are being proactive. So that would be a misconception to a certain degree. When you come into the corporate area, fair dinkum corporates, they're wearing suits, they're not wearing uniforms. So they've got that appearance of being reasonably important. I know when Mum died, and I got down there, the coppers were there, and poor old Matty, and the coppers said they couldn't find the doctor. And they said, oh, well, code 83. Code 83 means they go to the coroner's court. So I just thought, I said, she's not going to the coroner's court. She stared at me. She said, your job? I said, no. She said, a lot of mates that were. Oh, that explains a few things. Like what? Just your demeanour when you walked in here, the way you took control of things. It speaks of an old sergeant. I said, no, I've just been around a long time. I said, now go find the doctor. I need to talk to my sergeant. I said, fine. I said, but no coroner's court. She came back. She said, yep, we're still trying to find the doctor. I said, good, thank you. But they left, the ambulance gone. So you got two levels. What's your perception? Her perception was I was a copper or ex-copper. On how you handle things. It's not the first time that's happened. It happens quite a bit. It's how you go in and approach things. And then you got the little meat mile guards who can't throw that type of appearance out. So could be a misconception there. So we said down at Misty Bar, there was a bloke there who wasn't being compliant. I told him, don't have a drink for half an hour. Just drink water, sober up a bit. And he didn't. So I kicked him out. And this when his girlfriend comes out and said, who kicked out my boyfriend? I did. I'm a doctor. He's not drunk. I said, now you're being argumentative. You're out the door. And she started arguing again. I said, mate, I said, under the RSA laws, I said, read the signs, argumentative, intoxicated, blah, 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 blah. Oh. And she stared at me. Her girlfriend had explained what RSA stood for. And she said, oh, you want to use abbreviated words? I can use bigger ones than you. Oh, yeah, okay. Now, there's two other guards nearby that were visiting, and they were all watching. And she called me a gorilla, which was very offensive. And she said, I'm going to write a letter of complaint to your company, you big gorilla. What's your IQ? I said, better than yours at the moment. And I had enough of her by this stage. And Ralphie's gone, just piss off, you silly bitch. I said, mate, write your letter. I said, and I'll consider reading. I said, because I own the company. Now, fuck off. And she stormed off, still arguing the point. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things, Vince. You know, I've seen guards that should never, ever, ever be in the job. I've seen other blokes that could go a lot further than just being a normal guard, but don't want the responsibility. I just go and take charge because that's what I've done all my life. It's worked for me. Got me in a bit of trouble too. But
nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.